One of the problems we have, those of us who have autism, Asperger syndrome, is that often we are taken advantage of because we are viewed as being gullible or naive. Now, it's not just people with Asperger syndrome who have to put up with this, but everybody does to some degree. And that's called trauma bonding when that happens. But we're dealing specifically with people who are autistic. Now let's stop and think about this for a moment. This will help us understand what trauma bonding is. Have you ever formed a bond with a machine? Now I'm not talking about that car that you really loved until it broke down and wouldn't start. But I'm talking about a slot machine. Maybe a video game, but a slot machine. So what is it about a slot machine that compels people to waste their money on these things? Well, if we understand that, we will understand how those of us with autism are taken advantage of by others and form these trauma bonds that are very damaging to us. So at this very moment, I imagine there are thousands, probably tens of thousands of people, Las Vegas, other casinos, all over the planet who are sitting down playing slot machines. I mean, they sit down at these machines and they put money in them. It's been a while since I've seen one, but they put coins in them. Now maybe they use credit cards. I don't know. But they sit down and they put a quarter in and a quarter in and a quarter in and just lose their money. Why on earth would they do that? Well, the answer to the question is because intermittently the slot machine will have a payout. So they don't know when it's coming, but they know that it's coming. And so they keep doing it because they're trying to get over their losses to get to the sweet spot, to get to that good part. Now, the same thing is true when someone is abusing us. We put up with the abuse in anticipation of the intermittent kindness that this person will give us, the reward for putting up with their crap. So that is the essence of trauma bonding. So if you imagine what is going on in the casino when people are playing the slot machines, imagine that the slot machine is an abusive person and that person is taking advantage of you like a casino. They're taking advantage of you because you are autistic or because you have Asperger syndrome. So, okay, now we got that picture, but let's take a little bit closer look at this so we can understand it a little bit better. Now, when we are being taken advantage of by an abusive person, that means we have to be giving him something or her something. Otherwise, they wouldn't waste their time abusing us. I mean, they don't just abuse us for the fun of abusing us. Yeah, maybe they do. Bullies at school, whatever. But what is it that we give up when we're trying to get over that abuse to that sweet spot of the payout? That sweet spot where this abusive person is kind to us and nice to us. Because really, in trauma bonding, that's what we're going after. We don't enjoy the abuse, but we want to get past the abuse so that we can get to that point where they're kind to us. So what are those coins that we're giving up? What are we giving up when we do that? Well, first of all, we give up our dignity. When you were in school, you were probably bullied, right? And the first thing that went out the window was your dignity, your sense of self. Your sense of self-worth is another one. That's another coin that you're putting into the, figuratively speaking, the bully slot machine or the abuser slot machine. What about confidence? So the more that you are abused, the more confidence you lose. The more you sit at the slot machine, the more coins you lose. So the coin, one of the coins that you're putting into the abuser is, hey, you're losing your confidence. And all the while, what is he gaining? Well, he or she is gaining confidence because they're controlling you. They are gaining a sense of dignity because they are abusing you. They are gaining a sense of self-worth, greater self-worth. Well, what do you call that? You call it supply. Supply is, in my opinion, defined as anything that boosts the ego, that inflates the ego of the abuser. So we are giving them supply. Another thing we give up another coin is independent thinking, because you just can't think straight when you're being abused, obviously. Now, think of people who are sitting at a slot machine right this very second. What is on their mind? Are they thinking blindly? Is their mind somewhere else? Are they thinking about what they're going to do tomorrow? Maybe when they're putting coins in, but typically what happens is our independence in thinking is surrendered. When we are being abused by a slot machine, or when we're being abused by a casino, or when we're being abused by a controlling person, someone who's taking advantage of us because we are autistic. Another thing we're giving up is control, because we're psychologically controlled by the slot machine. We are psychologically controlled by the abuser, because how is he or she controlling us? Well, that promise of something good that's going to happen. So again, we're trying to get past the abuse to get to that sweet spot, that good spot. So you may be abused at the workplace, knowing that I got to put up with this employer or this supervisor's abuse so he will like me and give me a good rating. That's the payout. So you may be putting up with maybe a loved one, and you're putting up with their abuse because you know that eventually they're going to have to treat you right at some point or another. So you put up with it and you go through it. There are some times when you just need to get up and walk away. Now, the third thing we need to take into consideration when we're using this analogy of an abuser and a slot machine is they both have one thing in common, and that is neither one of them really truly love you. Now stop and think about walking into a casino and you're greeted by the owner, maybe the board of directors, and they just give you the biggest hugs. Oh, we haven't seen you in such a long time. No, they're not going to do that. You don't even know who they are. I mean, you may know what corporation owns the casino, but you probably don't even know that. You don't really know these people. Same thing is true as an abuser. You may know the guy's name, just like you know the name of the casino, but you really don't know this person. You think you do, but you don't. So the point that we're making is that just like slot machines don't love you, the abuser doesn't love you. If they did, they would not be abusing you, right? Most cases, there are some times when you have to punish people like children to teach them a lesson which they need to be taught, but by and large, it's just abuse for the sake of abuse. So they have no, well, let's go over some of the ways, I guess we should say, that they don't love you, or that they express their absence of love for you. First of all, they really don't have any interest in you. When someone is abusing you, they're not interested in you. They're interested in themselves. What's more, like a slot machine, you can walk away from an abuser anytime you want. Just get up and walk away. But for some reason, we don't do it. We put up with them. Well, like a slot machine, the abuser always has this promise of a payout. That's the bonding factor. That is the psychological chain that is holding us and gripping us in this person's sway. Is the fact that we know that if we just put up with this, if we just sit tight, and it'll come. So we sit tight, and it does come, just like a slot machine. It's going to come. There will be a payout, but the payout is nowhere near what we put into it. On the average, overall. Now, sometimes it's greater, and that is another thing that holds us, because we have that anticipation we may get back more love than abuse. But overall, if that were true, casinos would go out of business. If that were true, these people would stop abusing us, right? Because the reason they abuse us is so that we will give them supply. So you're supplying the casino with your money. You're supplying the abuser with your dignity, which he takes with your sense of self-worth, with your confidence, with your independent thinking, with your self-control. You're giving up all of those things, and he is taking them to boost his or her ego. That's trauma bonding. That is the essence of it, just like a slot machine. Now, like a slot machine, an abuser will also disguise themselves. At the very first, you ever walk into a casino? What you see is a lot of flashing lights, something that just draws you in. Typically, they put the slot machines in the back because you got to walk through all that nonsense. And you walk in, and one of the things you see is this big sign that typically that advertises somebody who won millions of dollars playing the slot machines. And you're thinking, oh, that could be me. Where did those millions of dollars come from that somebody won? Well, they came from people like us who play the slot machines. And for the record, I've never played a slot machine. I don't gamble. I think it's stupid. But most of it, talking about gambling in a casino, but, I've been duped by more narcissists and abusers than I care to remember. So it's happened to me in that sense. I've gambled out of sheer stupidity. And every single time, I was thinking that there was a reward coming, and the reward would come intermittently. That'd be nice to me. But I finally realized, this is costing me a lot more than I'm getting out of it, so I'd have to break that relationship. So the abuser will disguise himself or herself. They will love bomb you. You will think, oh, this is a great guy. I'm into a great relationship. This is a good place to work. This is a good place to go to church. This is a good, I don't know, whatever, good person to marry, whatever you're doing. But then you find out, not always, but sometimes you find out, this is just a slot machine. Number 4 is it appears that you can be trauma bonded to almost anything. Okay, now we're getting a little bit off topic, but I wanted to throw this in because the thought occurred to me while I was putting together my notes. But let's say that you get involved in a religious cult. Why? Why do people get involved in these things? They give away their time, they give away their money, they give away, some of them, they give away everything. You watch these televangelists and they want your money. Why? Do you send money to these people? Well, because there's something good going to come out of it. Something good is going to happen to you. I remember there was one televangelist, can't remember who it was, but that was actually his thing. That's trauma bonding. The promise of the payout. He's just a living, breathing slot machine on television. Yeah, send in your money and something good's going to happen to you. So, well, if that's true, why doesn't the televangelist send me his money so something good will happen to him? It only works one way, right? So you get involved in a religious cult of some kind and you find yourself in a trauma bond because you've given up your time, your money, your resources. Sometimes you give up a lot of time. I mean, some of these cults, basically every waking hour is given to the cult. You go out and proselytize or whatever. And the reward is a promise. There's this little payout that's going to come. Could be in the form of praise and honor and admiration for your dedication and your wonderfulness. You're so humble that you are being super spiritual. That's just total nonsense. It's a big ego boost, right? So we don't like to think of it in those terms if you're in the cult, but that's what it is. Or maybe it's the hereafter. You go through all this nonsense and you give your life away, and someday after you're dead, then you're going to get the payout. That doesn't even work in Las Vegas. Yeah, just come in here and play these slot machines, and after you're dead, you're going to hit the big payout, and all these coins are going to come falling out of your machine. What are we thinking? That's the way religious cults work. And they're not just religious cults. Sometimes it is an ideology. I know people that they get wrapped up in some political or social ideology, and they give their lives to it. They go out and they protest, they carry around signs. It's like a cult, even though it's not religious. And they just delve into that thing and give up everything with a promise that something good is going to happen. And usually the good thing that happens is they get that warm and fuzzy pat on the back. They're virtue signaling. And so they have the promise of feeling like a virtuous person because they're taking a stand against this or against that or for this and for that. Now, sometimes, those are good things to do. We do need to take a stand. We do need to get involved. But sometimes it becomes a trauma bond and we don't even know about it. So what do we do about all of this? Well, what we need to do is we need to understand, this is number 5. There are 3 things. I did a whole video on this, but first of all, you need to have knowledge. Know that this is a trauma bond, whether it's in Las Vegas or whether it's with someone who is abusing you. You got to know that. Secondly, you got to understand how it works. Understand that you're losing more than you're gaining. Understand that the only reason that you're gaining is to keep you so that this person can abuse you so they can stroke and inflate their ego. That's all there is to it. Just like a casino, the only reason they give you the payout is to keep you there giving them money. This seems kind of odd, right? But that's the way it works. And that intermittent payout, that anticipation that maybe, it'll be more than I put in, and sometimes it is, that's what holds us. But ultimately, we always lose with a controller, with someone who is abusive. So we have knowledge, we have understanding, then we act on what we know and understand. Well, that's wisdom. So we have knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. Wisdom is get up and walk out. Once you figure, or you don't go in the first place. Wisdom is you're sitting there playing the slot machine. You say, wait a minute, this thing's taking my money. It's paying me out, but not as much as I'm putting in. If I keep doing this forever, I'm going to wind up losing a ton of money. This is not my idea of fun anymore. It may have been fun for a while, and it does, kick in your dopamine, but okay, it's not fun anymore. Let me find some way to have fun that's actually profitable, where I earn money rather than lose money. Same thing with a trauma bonding relationship. Let me get into a relationship where I'm not being abused in exchange for a small reward, but where I'm not being abused and where we reward each other just for the sake of caring about each other. See those two rectangles? Well, right there on the screen. All you got to do is click on one of them so we can keep talking together. But if you're done, thanks for stopping by, and we will see you all next time.